what if we could verify anything without exposing our private information? Zero knowledge proofs allows you to prove your age without showing your ID. Banks verify your creditworthiness without knowing your income, or enable voting systems that are completely transparent without revealing who you vote for. Think about the impact. Secure government records that no one can tamper with, or military intelligence that can be shared with global partners without risking national security. Decentralized banking that protects privacy but remains fully verifiable. This isn't science fiction. It's already happening. The question is, will we use this technology to empower individuals, or will it be controlled by the same centralized forces that dominate today? The way we handle privacy is about to change forever.
Welcome, Jiri. Thank you for being here. This is where we start the conversation, the official recording. So why don't you tell the listener, whoever is watching, who you are, what you do in the world, a little bit of your background so they know who is in front of me.
Okay, thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Jiri. I'm originally from the Czech Republic. I spent over 15 years in banking. And then about 8 years ago, I started this idea of building developer tooling for Web3 space, and that's why we started with my co-founder Sam Tatum.
Yep.
And Tatum was pretty successful. We got over 180,000 developers on the platform.
Yeah.
A lot of amazing customers, and it was a great story. And roughly a year ago, I started my individual journey of helping startups, because once you build something, you learn a lot of stuff.
Sure.
And so I'm still in blockchain space, and huge fan.
Yeah.
But also I'm helping startups to succeed. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Cool. Yeah. How did you, before starting that company that became so successful, did you have experience starting companies? Like, how did that become so successful?
So, no.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's just luck, basically, hard work and luck.
So one thing is I'm not in my 20s, right? So I work a lot. I was working for companies who were building software. I learned a lot from great, amazing people.
Yeah.
And so I think they helped me to shape the person I am now.
Yeah, sure.
And I was, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I still remember some lessons learned I got. Like, one of the best ones was my boss before I started Tatum, I had this amazing two bosses, and one of them said, like, you can be right, but what's the point if no one wants to play with you?
Right, exactly.
And that's something I still remember, because it's so funny, and it's also so true.
For sure.
That I guess that's one lesson learned I'm using a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And because very often it's you might be right.
Yeah. In fact, I would suspect there's a correlation between proving someone wrong. Like the more you prove someone wrong and prove yourself right, the less people will care what you have to say, and you're going to end up playing by yourself, basically.
I guess that's pretty much. I guess that's pretty much it.
Kind of like how it works. Yeah.
And so, no, I haven't had any kind of special training. What happened is when we started Tatum, as a European founders, we basically did a lot of mistakes, as we are supposed to do.
Right, of course.
One of them was we were secretive about our product, because we thought, like, let's build amazing product first.
Yeah, and then they come.
We shouldn't tell anyone, because they will steal it.
Right.
That's kind of first thing. That's completely nonsense, by the way. Because one thing is to have idea.
Yes.
And the other thing is, can you execute on that? Do you have enough conviction? Do you believe in that idea?
Exactly.
So you are willing to sacrifice years of your life? that's not really kind of happening in most cases. What happened is we built the product with almost non-external advice, or we never actually were trying to find customers for that.
Yeah.
We just believed this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, intuitively.
And we shouldn't go live
Yeah.
before
Until you're
it's
ready.
before it's perfect.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect anyway, but
Yeah, perfect enough. Yeah.
yeah, but, perfect enough. Most people will be like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do that. And now they are smart. The truth is about most founders, they just got lucky. That's just the real truth. Like all those words are just words. That's
Yeah.
now they are able to say I had all this figured years ahead. That's just
Nonsense.
nonsense.
Yeah. So yeah, you consider yourself lucky in that regard, that yes, you had the skills, but it was the right time, the right place, the right partner, the right product. It was
Yeah.
a lot of things had to go right for it to succeed.
Yeah, and you can work hard to get as close to that lucky point as much as you can, and all that, and you can have experience, you can have friends, you can have connections, but you still need the luck. And so in our luck, basically what happened is our plan was first year after we launch, the plan was to get 6,000 developers on our platform in a year, but we actually got them first month.
Oh, yeah, amazing.
And so the product wasn't ready. We even haven't had payment gateway.
Okay.
So they couldn't pay us.
All right. Yeah, right.
Because we never thought there will be that many people coming
Sure,
to
yeah.
our platform, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that was also a factor. When you do something for free, more people find out about it. It's oh, this is a great little...
Yeah, that's one factor. And the other one was, it was really helpful for them. And so they basically were sharing that with others. And so it somehow was growing so fast
Yeah.
that we were not even able to scale it technically, because we were thinking we will not get that many users.
Yeah, right.
So, and the biggest problem was for us back then that because our customers were not involved in building the product,
Yeah.
they were using product in a way we never anticipated.
Sure.
So basically, first 8 months after launch, what we did is we basically were fixing our assumptions and improving product to the reality.
Sure.
So yeah, a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah, actually. What exactly was it offering to, and why was it so useful for people?
So I'm a technical person.
Yeah.
I'm a former developer. I'm not a developer anymore. I might be able to do something, but I'm not that good anymore by far.
Yeah.
But back then I was pretty technical. And one of the things as a developer you have is you're using a lot of tooling, developer tooling, like frameworks, SDKs.
Yep.
Almost no one is coding from scratch.
That's right. Makes
anymore.
Sense. Yep, makes sense.
And so we were thinking back then in 2018 that, you know what, the problem here is that we have a lot of those SDKs and frameworks, but we have nothing for Web3. If you are building a responsive website, you are using just framework to kind of handle all that.
Yeah.
All that visual aspect for your phone, for your tablet, for your desktops, whatever it is, it will work. And you don't have to build it from scratch. You don't have to test it on every single screen.
Makes sense, yeah.
And so in 2017 and 2018, we only had RPCs, which is basically requiring developer to understand the specific chain, how RPCs work. They have to build every single feature they want to build from scratch, which is pretty much the opposite of what how as a developers we are working till then.
Yep.
And so we thought, okay, clearly this has to go this way.
Yeah,
it always has.
Right.
So
That's what you
you know.
created. Uh-huh.
And so we basically build this framework for Web3, which abstract developers from those complexities. They haven't had to understand every single specific chain.
Yep.
They had like one line of code which could work for any chain.
Makes
so
sense.
it was kind of multi-chain and
Yep.
things like that. So
Makes sense, yeah.
what it meant is we were actually able to attract also Web2 developers to use Web3 features in their apps. That's why we were able to tap to so many developers, whereas others were not.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine most, if not all, Web3 developers came from Web2 world.
Oh yeah,
You know,
most of
that's-
them, yeah.
Yeah, and that's because of people like you, or sort of like platforms like your own, that made it easy to transition. So they didn't have to learn a brand new set of, I don't know, libraries, or I don't know what
Yeah.
it's called. Yeah. So it's actually a good transition to Web3, decentralization, blockchain, and all of those topics. Why don't you give me your definition of Web3? Yeah, what is Web3 for people to understand? Or maybe a better thing to say is like, what's the difference between Web 1, 2, and 3, just for people to understand where we are in terms of the evolution?
Well, I think it was, I don't know who said it originally.
Yeah.
Maybe Chris Dixon is kind of using that a lot. I like that, Web 1 I agreed, and then write in Web 2, and then Web 3 you own. I like that. That's pretty much what it should be. If I don't think we are there yet as a society, because the problem with free space is that the original idea was that we own as individuals.
Yeah.
We own our assets.
Yeah.
But that also requires people to be responsible with that. Which means if you lost your keys, for example, you don't have your assets anymore.
Right.
But if you think about it, most society actually don't want to be responsible that much. They want
right.
someone else to be responsible for them.
That's right. That's right.
On behalf of them. Like, we have banks, and, we hope they actually will make our assets safe. And so the question is, if the original idea, at least the way I perceive that idea, if it will sustain. I don't think so. I actually think we will have to figure this out. And also the decentralization level is in question. Like, is the society ready to be completely decentralized? I don't think so. Might be, but it will take decades. I think.
What is the promise of Web3 or decentralization? What is like the ideal state that everyone who understands moving towards?
Well, the ideal state would be that we, as humans and as a society, and maybe, if you don't think about governments at the moment, but you can think about governments, we have equal access to data which are driving our lives, like voting, for example. And so it cannot be affected by third party. And basically it's always, there's always proof that, for example, people voted like this, and no one can influence that. I mean, technically, at least.
For sure.
Of course,
Right. There
are other ways how to influence people. But when it comes to technical realization, how we do things, that the decentralization level is important not only for being able to vote, which we can today, but also to be able to prove that I voted, that it's not important how, probably that much, but that the vote was valid,
counted,
and it's counted.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of use cases we can talk about when it comes to decentralization. But in general, what I would like to see is that as a people, we are clear that no one is interfering in our choices and in our living in a way that we, as far as we can influence us.
So let's say in a Western society where, let's say America, for example, where most people probably believe, and it's probably true, that it is democratic, that the votes are counted fairly, at least most of them are fairly counted. To switch to the new system where it is for sure everything is counted and programmatically you can verify it and prove it, it's maybe not as big of a pain to solve, and not big of a problem to solve. But I would suspect in more like dictatorship type regimes, maybe people will be a little bit more motivated to change the way people vote, for example.
Well, that's the question, because in those regimes, I don't assume they really need transparency that much. Whereas here, I don't know. I mean, we had J6, right?
Yeah.
And those people were saying those elections were rigged. So I don't think we have to go that far when it comes to transparency and actual democracy.
So you are saying that decentralization is probably not anywhere in the near future. Maybe we'll have some kind of a hybrid version of it where there are, right?
Because when you think about decentralization, it's really about transparency, and the thing is, you need to have all parties aligned.
Yes.
So does government wants to be transparent, really?
Yeah. Yeah, of course not. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, with the current regime and Elon Musk and everyone Doge, they are actually more transparent than any other probably party have done in the past. They're posting every action or every everything they're exposing, every transaction or whatever. Maybe that is the right trajectory, would you say?
I don't think so.
Okay.
For one simple reason, because to have real transparency, we would have to see all data, and we are just getting some crumbs of something, and you don't know any context. So it's hard to actually say this is really something. I think it's a good step.
Okay, yeah.
Right. It's a good way to open up government to people, because it should be like that. So that's a good thing. But I think it might be step number 1 out of 100 steps we need to do. So I wouldn't call it transparency, because transparency means kind of both sides, and just right now we know just one side. That's more like opinion almost than transparency.
By one side, you mean what? Can you break it down?
So if you think about, I'm not that much in detail, to be honest. I don't follow it that much, but I heard we have there is agencies, I think it's called USAID or something like that, and they mentioned there is $50 million going to some condoms or like that. And so the question is we don't know what is related, because then some other people say it's actually not condoms, and then we don't know if it's actually the real number. We don't, because we haven't seen it. He's just saying that.
That's right.
So basically, you have to trust him.
Right.
Which makes it centralized, because he's the only person who can tell you.
Source of
which
truth,
it's not transparent. It's not definitely decentralized. It's just one person you might or might not trust.
Right, but I think it starts from claims like that, and then the proofs have to come in for you to validate the claims. So maybe
Correct.
that's just a matter of time for them to expose the data as well.
Yeah. I mean, that would be good. Like, if we can validate it, then, we really have transparency. But, just claiming something, like I can claim whatever I like.
Right. Of course. Yeah. I mean, I would suspect though, the claims that they're making, they're confident that they can prove that they're true, because they would lose their credibility, right? If they made all kinds of bunch of claims, and then people, people are not stupid. At least a subset of population, they're paying attention, they're making sure that whoever said what, they will verify it and check it when it's available.
Correct. Yeah.
So hopefully,
I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah.
I hope so.
So what is then a probable scenario with this whole decentralization technology, blockchain? What do you see the more probable outcome?
Look, for me, like my perspective on blockchain is it's a database.
Yeah.
Pretty much. So we had SQL databases and NoSQL databases, and today we have blockchain databases, which you can read from blockchain, you can write to blockchain, you can do transactions. You can't update, you can't delete.
Yeah.
And then we have something in a normal databases called procedures, which in blockchain space we call smart contracts. Same thing, pretty much. And so it's just a database.
Right.
The difference here is that this database is not only technical solution, it also brings a new, almost I would say, paradigm shift we have to go through.
Yeah.
Because in order to succeed, it assumes that people would like to own things and be responsible for it.
Yeah.
Or there will be some solution. So I think right now we have neither of that, like in a scale. And so there is some use cases like, Jesus, I just forgot.
The name of the project, is that what you forgot, or?
No, I forgot the term of, basically USDT.
Yeah.
Those, I just forgot what's the general term of that.
Oh yeah, stablecoins.
Stablecoins.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, so stablecoins is those are starting to be used widely. It's okay, but I still don't think we are there. Like as a blockchain, because stablecoins are. It's a simple solution, which is fine. You can transfer value, which is great. There's a lot of issues with stablecoins we have to solve.
Yeah.
But other than that, this is something which is already working pretty well. But from the blockchain perspective, I think we can do much more than just sending one token, left to right in one database.
Totally. What would you say are the most exciting for you use cases that could really revolutionize how we do certain types of things?
So I'm a huge fan of zero knowledge, of ZK.
Maybe define it first. Like
and zero proof.
Yeah.
So if you think about blockchain, the whole point is it's transparent. So if you send some transaction, I can go into the blockchain and see if the transaction really happened. So if you say, okay, I'm going to send you one Bitcoin, I can see that you send it. I don't need to trust you. I can verify it. But what if we have data we don't want to disclose, but we need to make decisions based on those data? Like, for example, if you think about digital ID, like you are going to a restaurant and you want to drink some alcohol. Now, normally, in some cases and in some countries, you have to show your ID. On that ID, what you have is your name, your birth date, address, sometimes very often address, and things like that.
Right.
but you don't want to disclose that if you're married or not, especially girls, right? I mean, that's not kind of like, that's not great. And so zero knowledge, basically, what it can do is you can digitally prove you're over 18, and it will just say yes, no. It will not disclose
Everything else,
who you are, how old are you, none of their business. The only right question is, are you over 18 or 21 or whatever?
Yeah. Is that a big problem, though, when you are oversharing information? And what are the biggest use cases where that's a massive, like the biggest problem?
Well, I think it's, if we as an industry will be able to implement this well, it's going to be way bigger than crypto, NFTs, all that together.
Sure.
Because it goes much further. Like it, for example, if you think about military, about NATO, right? Like there is, I don't know how many countries is in NATO, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
And then they have, when they go and there is a conflict and there is a lot of them involved, if someone gets hurt, they don't have their medical records. And they can't really share that because, you know, every country, they have their own database, you know, it's classified information. They don't just send it right away to anyone just like that.
Sure.
However, if you would have some data, even critical infrastructure, it doesn't have to be health records, in different countries, so basically they can't read the data.
Yeah.
And so technically, if someone, I'm from Czech Republic, okay, so let's say if we will have our government data in zero knowledge and encrypted, what can happen is we can easily run our data, our government data, even here in the US. And if someone, for some reason, will nuke Prague, we actually still be operating. The same goes for actually the military, because the whole point of military is actually a great example of organization which needs to be decentralized as much as possible. So there is no one single point of failure.
Right.
And then if you think I'm from banking, so I heard a lot of banks are talking like we would like to go on chain, but we have a lot of proprietary data and algorithms. We don't want to disclose them. We don't want to disclose our IP. We even can't legally for many reasons. There is third parties and all that.
Right.
So what if we can actually use zero knowledge to run on-chain lending and things like that? We could do that. We just don't want to disclose, for example, our scoring algorithm.
Makes sense. So it's basically zero knowledge enables more types of relationships, transactions, economic activity in the way.
Yeah. I'm a little bit upset about it because right now most of the projects are using ZK for speeding, which is great. Like that's useful. For? Speeding up the transactions. So it can be more of them cheaper, basically. But then a lot of them are also using it for hiding transactions, which, we kind of like the whole point of how we talk to others is you are not transparent, blockchain is.
Yeah.
And then what you do next is you hide those transactions. It's like what the...
that's the counterintuitive.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Well, I do understand you want to hide things. That's probably in human nature, but then you can just go to your bank. They can hide it for you.
Do you think it's a possible version of the future? Maybe it's far in the future where we have total transparency at everything that happens in the world.
No, I don't think so. Especially because it's not in human nature. Because humans, we tend to lie.
Yeah.
And it's not just because we want to, or sometimes it's convenient. Sometimes you don't want to just, explain everything to everyone. So you just say it like shortly and basically it's kind of like lie.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to hurt someone.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so basically people, I don't think like humans, we have it in our nature to actually live in like completely truthful environment.
I understand. Interesting. Yeah.
And so I think I would be realistic and expect to have transparency when it matters, like, when it comes to government, when it comes to different registers and votings and things like that. That should be.
Yeah.
It's not, but it should be simple.
Should be simple, yeah.
But it's not.
Interesting.
The question is why.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think we're ready as a human race, basically. Also,
definitely not ready.
Intentions, like if you see countries, like
Yeah.
imagine, like you have US, you have China, you have Russia, you have like European Union, like, and all of them have different angles how to do stuff.
For sure. I'll share with you this vision that I have for human evolution. I don't know at what point, if ever, will we reach there, but I do see that's almost like an attractor, a point somewhere in the future to which we're moving towards. How far it is, it's hard to say. But it's this state in which we create a unified organism. Let's call it a conscious earth, in a similar way how we have a body, a conscious organism that consists of cells, primitive forms of life that organize into a complex form that shares information freely. If you have a cut in one part of the body, I think I might have maybe shared it with you briefly before, but basically it's a unified organism that acts like one. It doesn't have borders. It doesn't have politics. It just optimizes for its for its growth, for its well-being as a total. Yes, there are cancerous cells that do harm to the body, but that's part of life where maybe they are needed for us to have some kind of like confrontation for us to grow and expand and so it feels that way when you look at latest innovation in technology. Let's say the internet as a backbone, that could be like a nervous system that's been developing, and humans are being these cells, like maybe relatively speaking, primitive forms of life compared to what we are creating, like this super organism that's very intelligent and beyond human intelligence in a way. And decentralization plays a part into creating transparency, or transparent enough. For example, when, again, back to the cutting your finger or something, a certain amount of resources have been delivered to that area. Not the whole body doesn't probably have to be aware of this cut, only a particular segment that's delivering certain resources to this. I don't really know how biology or those things work, but that's my assumption that's what happens. And so only dedicated streams of pathways are delivering those resources to this part of the body. And I think that's maybe what should happen on the earth as well. It's not like it's transparent for everyone. Not everyone really needs to know everything, but you need to know what you are within your domain of expertise in a way. And another perspective for you to consider maybe is so you said, I don't see humans ever existing in the in kind of like in the environment with full transparency. It's in our nature to deceive and to lie and to hide information. I would agree with that. And also over time, you notice that the more evolved you are as a human being, the less secrets you have about yourself. The more you uncover, the less you lie to yourself. You know, and so then you extrapolate that to a relationship in a partnership. The more evolved the two individuals are, the less secrets they have between each other. And so the hope is the more evolution humans go through, the less secrets there are, and the more transparency there are. Maybe we will never reach a state in which there's 100% transparency, but I think that's the direction, at least with evolution, that we're going to.
Might be.
Yeah.
I hope so. That would be great.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that would take, but it would be definitely very good way how to solve a lot of things we are dealing with even, today. And I think what you are saying is I spoke with some super smart people in few months ago in DC, and they were all over AI, and some of them were actually building this AI tool which would protect us as humans against AI. So basically, they were kind of building these guide rails around AI, so it can't go off limit. And so we had this discussion, and they said the only problem with AI is that, maybe in a few years, especially once they build some more features, like it doesn't have to have full self-consciousness. It's just, if it's going to be like a bit more self-aware, it can actually learn super fast and evolve. And so, if you think about it, it takes us, 80 years, and then, we have your kids, and they have their kids. And so it takes like centuries to actually evolve like a bit.
For sure.
But here, it can do like in hundreds of iterations like per day.
Yeah, or per second.
And or per second.
Yeah,
And so they said like the problem we have is, we're trying to build something, but, it might happen that in 10 years, it would be, we cannot use word intelligence because it's just, it's a composition of multiple features we as a humans possess. Like, for example, emotional abilities to understand others, right? And, it might happen that AI will not have that part. But overall, they expect it's going to be like, 10,000 times smarter than us as humans. And then the thing is like, how can you keep it in one place when it's 10,000 times smarter than you? It's always, if it wants, it's always be going to be ahead of you.
Yeah.
And so, let's see how that will go.
Yeah. The one scenario that excites me, and there are a bunch of other scenarios that how it could go wrong for sure, is the scenario in which the most advanced AI that we develop really cares to keep humans around, not because it's a moral thing to have, but because it helps AI to continue learning about existence through humans, as like fingers touching the world, and through human cognition, through human.
And it would be interface for it.
An interface with the physical reality.
Until it will build their own interface, and then.
But maybe it will. Well, so like you can argue, human body is this. So depending on how much you are into like spirituality or non-physical aspect of reality, if you will, you could say that human body is this portal into the ethereal, the spiritual kind of dimension. And we don't have any proof that we can recreate that with machines, and that's maybe right. That is the interface with the reality, the extended reality that spills out into the ethereal domain, not just in the. Yes, maybe AI will be able to create very deep, precise machinery that's able to touch the world in a very similar way how we can physically, touch the world, or sense the world, or learn about the world through the physical body. But there's no evidence to suppose that we will create another portal through which consciousness can flow into this life, and that has its own connection to the source, to the unified field.
It cares about that part, right? That is because it didn't, then it can still do whatever it wants. But look, I think, I hope it's gonna be beneficial. We kind of, as a human race, we will get much better. We will maybe cure some things, maybe deal with things we should have
Yeah.
dealt with like centuries ago.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be fine. That would be the best option for me, I guess.
Right. Right.
And I don't know. I mean, it's going so fast
Yeah.
that I don't even like. I hope blockchain can play a significant role in a way how we will able to control, if we will be able to control whatever we will build in the future. But then again, like it has to be built, and I haven't seen really anything yet. Because we always are like, oh, let's use blockchain as a source of truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's putting the truth in the blockchain? And why is it your truth and not everyone else's truth, right?
Right.
That's so it's hard to, I mean, if you go to Israel and Palestine, if you ask them about their truths, I suppose it would be different.
Right.
How they feel and how they think.
You would only work with objective truth, I guess. That's based on science and...
If that exists, and even science is kind of something you can... There is always like this room, and especially like, if you think about medical, about health science, like we were always wrong. Like in past 500, 600 years, all the assumptions we had even 50 years ago.
All right.
And then you always read those articles like, oh, milk is healthy. Oh, milk is killing people. Oh, milk is healthy again.
Right.
Things like that. It's changing like so often. I don't even keep up anymore. And so I guess, I don't know if there is one single truth, except 42, of course. That's
for sure. Speaking of, I guess, truth and connection. So I wanted to touch on the topic on NFTs and it being a bridge between the digital world and the physical world. And
yeah, I mean, that's so when NFTs exploded in 2022 and 21, the biggest problem of NFTs was that it was just kind of envelope on chain, which was sending you to AWS where the actual picture was stored.
Yeah, it's like basically an envelope with the link.
Yeah, and so if someone deleted that picture from AWS, you just got empty envelope. And then, of course, for if you used a Web3 storage, then you have to pay for storing. And so 23 was great year because, I mean, now I'm being just sarcastic. Because a lot of people lost their NFTs because they didn't pay fee for the storage.
Okay, yeah.
And so it was pretty much kind of deleted.
For the storage on chain.
Yeah.
So if you don't pay, it's just permanently been deleted? Is that...
So not always, but at some point,
So a lot of people had... interesting.
And then, and that's just technical part. And then you have a legal part, like and when I'm doing... We had this one customer, actually two customers back then, and they wanted to do digital ID of car, which is cool, and it's nice to have this, transparency over your car, like mileage and all the services it went through and all that.
Sure.
And owners, but. It also means someone has to recognize that. Like, for example, government would be great. So when the ideal world would be, I have my car on the phone, like as an NFT, QR code, whatever it is. I'm when I'm stopped by cops, I can just show them, QR code or NFT. I can transfer it to you for half an hour if I want to borrow, my car to you. And things like that. That would be great, except again, it has to be legally recognized.
Yeah.
And then I think at least I don't have this feeling that we completely solve this issue of, okay, I have physical picture of something, and now I have a digital picture of Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I can still burn that physical one.
Yeah.
And now what? Like, what I'm actually owning. And so...
Well, now here in that example, you're just deciding to burn the bridge between the kind of the physical and the real, but there's still a utility to assign a digital representation of a physical thing and have it like a one of one. From my understanding, there's still utility
as
there.
long as someone recognizes that,
right?
Because if it's just me owning NFTs or NFT of Mona Lisa, and I'm going to court saying, okay, this is mine, so hence I'm owning also the physical one. You know what's gonna happen?
Right. For them to recognize, unless there is an alternative version to court system that is on chain or something like that.
Either that, or we will have laws which will say, you know, in order to be recognized, you have to go through some process.
Yeah.
And then you're fine. Okay. But we don't have that. Maybe in some countries, I'm not sure here.
Sure. So from what I'm hearing, there are not a whole lot of utility yet at all for all of these, like this new, you know.
I think, look, stablecoins are doing well. They could be doing way better. I think the problem with stablecoins we have today is it's almost a joke in a way. Like it's still it's working.
Yeah.
It's used. It's useful.
Yeah.
So that's good. However, there are also some issues we have with stablecoins. Like for example, if you think about the protocol of stablecoins, there is pretty much no compliance built in. And so it's funny when someone says, oh, we are using banking and banking is expensive and slow.
Yeah.
And now we have this amazing, great stablecoins which are fast and, you know, fees are low. Yeah, because you don't follow any laws. Like, you know, it's like saying, okay, my car is going 100 miles an hour. I'm in the city. It took me like, you know, 2 miles took me like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then you have someone else who would go like, okay, I'm not following, I'm going in opposite direction. I'm going basically, I'm running red lights. I'm going 200 miles an hour in a city. I'm breaking all the laws. And I'm faster, and so hence has to be better.
Right.
And that's, you know, that's nonsense. That's not true. You know, let's compare. Because, you know, stablecoins is nothing else than just sending transactions in one database where you send from A to B, from B to C. That's it.
Yeah.
And there is, you know, legal side, and a lot of things are already figured. A lot of them are being figured. But in order to be able to compare, I think we should compare, like, you know, comparing to Visa is complete nonsense. You cannot compare Visa or MasterCard, which is very highly complex solutions. Even Swift, like Swift, as a payment network, it has about 300-400 message types. Like you can, for example, if you find out, there is some issue, like for example, the money is coming from illegal activity, you can freeze them. You can send them back. You can actually ask for more information before you actually...
You know, there are a lot more nuances of the transaction.
You can do none of that with stablecoins because they don't have it built in.
Right.
So as a society, we agreed that if someone is going to kidnap your child or is going to sell that child or is going to, you know, hire someone for killing or things like that, or drugs, whatever you think about.
Yeah.
We agreed that we will
that.
do as much as possible to actually kind of, you know, hold them accountable and not give them money.
Right.
Just kind of, you know, and make that as much difficult as we can. And then we don't have that here. Like stablecoins, the way how they work is they have something we call external compliance. So basically the app on top of stablecoin network is taking care of compliance, but the actual network,
Right.
not, it doesn't care.
And is there a disadvantage of doing it this way? Because the app is not decentralized. This is essentially is basically just going back to the. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as long as if we could build a decentralized version of compliance, that would be solution probably kind of to be aligned with whatever exists today. If you follow that, what happens today is basically Web3 projects asking government, basically give us slack, right? Like, you have your laws for banking, but, we can't do that. So, so just, ignore that. And it seems like the new administration is very open to it, which I think is actually beneficial as long as it's going to be smart. Like you cannot just allow anyone do everything because we already had that. So we knew
it didn't go that well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why we built all those checks, all those compliance to prevent that.
Guardrails and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if, some of them might be wrong, some of them might be outdated. That's perfect. That's fine. That's normal. But it doesn't mean it shouldn't be there at all.
Do you see a path where stablecoin replaces regular currency?
Might be, but I don't think so. Because, well, it depends how you define stablecoin. Like if we think about digital dollar, like the government would build basically CDBC, CBDC, central bank digital currency. Maybe. But if we are thinking like, we will have USDT as a main currency in the US and all around the world, I think anyone who studied economics knows that every country is using their monetary policy to control the economy in a way.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that would mean that
they lose that ability.
Would lose that leverage.
Right.
And the question is if they can do that, and if they are ready to do that. I haven't seen that yet. So maybe, but it's not up to me. It's not up to you. It's not.
Right.
Unless USDT, USDC, those guys will be so successful, or someone else,
right,
that
there will be no other way but just accepting that. Yeah,
people will just start using that, no matter what the government thinks. That can happen. The only question is, then I would assume the government would react. They would kind of create some regulations for the dollar to because even Trump, I think he mentioned he wants to have strong dollar, so I don't see that happening. But when it comes to central bank digital currency, that might happen because it's a great thing for them, because they can control in a way better way how you that's right.
What's your obviously it's not a financial advice or whatever about Bitcoin, like how do you see Bitcoin develop? Like what's the future for Bitcoin that you see?
Okay, that's a good question. I'm not really a trader. I'm more technical person.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to assess Bitcoin because the only value I see for Bitcoin is technically is that we use Bitcoin to pay fees for transactions we are sending in Bitcoin. And so you can do 6-7 transactions per second. And whatever fee it is that will actually show the whole value of the whole value of Bitcoin as such. Basically the market cap or whatever we call it. But I think we are past that for many years now. And, I heard stories like, oh, it will replace money. That's not going to happen, I guess. Actually, I even wrote an article about it, and, a lot of people didn't like it. But I was trying to argue that Bitcoin is not ready to become single currency in the world or something, because how that would even happen?
Right.
Like, there is a lot of people who jumped in 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
Like, they have a lot of Bitcoin, so they would be super rich.
Yeah.
And then people today would have just like, how would you actually...
Right.
How would you even create pricing if you wouldn't have dollars, or fiat currency, any currency, and you would only have Bitcoin? How would that would actually happen? Because, okay, let's say US would buy a lot of Bitcoins. Okay, let's go with governments. So US would buy, I don't know, 2 million, maybe 3 million of Bitcoins.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so what? We have 21 million, 5 million is lost pretty much, I guess. So that's 16 million. They will buy 3 million. It's 30 million left. And so, China would do that. Russia would do that. But then it's going to be from the available Bitcoins. There will be much less of them. So the price will go up.
Yeah.
And so they would probably, the value, and then the question is for what they will buy it. If you would buy Bitcoin in order to replace dollar, then the dollar value will go down.
Right.
So actually the price...
Or the buying power of the dollar would drop, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much to zero, actually. Because you want to drop that currency, so the currency has no value anymore. And so it's not almost economically possible to actually do that. So...
But do you see the future in which Bitcoin is still used for, at least for storing value? And
I think that's where we are getting.
Yeah.
I think it's used basically as a vehicle for I wouldn't call it gold, but pretty much store of value.
Yeah.
And the question is if it will evolve somewhere further, but where I can't see what it's going to be, or if it will stay with Bitcoin as a store of value.
Yeah.
But I agree that's pretty much what it is today. And it makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of in closing, I'd like for you to share, if you have one, kind of a desirable human future, from whatever perspective that you might have on the world. Like, what would you like to see in the future?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a strong believer in zero knowledge, and that would be great because it would give us as a society, I hope, some control over data.
Yeah.
About our own data.
Yeah.
But like I'm also a huge fan of AI. I think that would be there is so many great things we can do with AI. There's also some cases which are not that great.
Right.
But for example, what I would like to see is AI being able to download people. Like, if you think about that, like if you're expert in an area, in some area, then it would be able to download your knowledge.
Yeah.
And then just you can scale yourself as an employee. For example, you don't have to go to work, right? You can actually have AI doing jobs in multiple companies for you. Or, you can talk to your mom who is, not with us anymore. You can talk about your wife, about your girlfriend, about your problems, and it will talk to you. You can talk to Taylor Swift or, people like that who would never talk to you in most cases, I assume.
Right.
because they don't have time to talk to every single person in the world. But actually, might work. So this is not. I think this is something which can happen in a few years, but I don't. So I don't know if it's long term, but this is something I would like to see. It might be fun.
Yeah.
And it can be great actually to talk to someone, to educate yourself. It can actually transform all the education as such, because you don't need teacher who is kind of like 2 pages ahead of you very often.
Right. It's right. Exactly. Yeah, the education, I see the future in which AI basically it's creating a visual learning on the fly. So let's say any particular area right now, you would go to YouTube, for example, YouTube University, a lot of people call it, and try to find a video that describes a particular concept in the visual way, and hoping that it's going to be enough for you to learn the concept. With AI and with visual AI, I think it would be really cool if you inquire about something and it will give you a perfect explanation tailored for you, knowing what you know, and like the type of frameworks that you're capable of understanding. It shows you visually the whole experience, and you just get it right away. That would be cool.
Yeah, that's true, because I'm asking ChatGPT very often some things.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to go like, imagine I'm like 7-year-old, because
right to simplify it. Exactly. Yeah. Have you played with DeepSeek?
No,
Not really. What's your favorite AI so like right now that you use?
I'm just simple person. I'm just using ChatGPT and some other kind of like just I'm playing around, but I don't require anything special at the moment.
Sure. Have you tried the deep research feature, like the latest feature that they?
No, I haven't yet.
Yeah, well, because it's a $200 subscription.
Well, that's that. But also, I haven't tried that yet.
It would be kind of interesting. I haven't either, but I've heard some like pretty revolutionary things. From my understanding, it's the one thing that's really revolutionary is that AI is able to tap into the latest research about AI, and it can self-improve basically in that way.
Yeah, that's how it starts.
Right.
That's what those guys mentioned, like,
right
if it can improve itself.
Yeah.
Because they were like, it will not have these emotions, it will not have self-conscious, but we talk about it, and then they said, well, actually, it might not need it. But that's the problem, because if it doesn't have, like, for example, you wouldn't kill person because you have something in your head which says it's not a great idea. Yeah. And it's not just because of laws.
Yeah.
It's also because as a human, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, like moral values.
It's like moral values.
Yeah.
Whereas for AI, if it doesn't have this feature, it would be just technical. You shouldn't do that. Don't unplug USB-C.
Right.
Don't unplug that person. But if the reasoning will be different, or in that situation, it might decide to do that.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have this moral compass, as I hope most of us.
Sure, exactly. What would you consider yourself an optimist or a pessimist?
In what?
In life.
In life, well, I'm optimist.
Yeah.
With pessimistic tendencies, like no, because the thing is, like, I'm trying to be real.
Yeah.
Right. So I tend to know, like, possibly the worst scenarios.
Yes.
But then I'm being optimistic about them. So, and when we were building Tatum with Sam, like, everyone was like, why are you laughing so much? Like, why are you so happy? And when you're building startup, like, there's so many failures. Like, every single day, there's like 10 things which goes completely wrong. It's just shitstorm, basically.
Yeah, every day. Yeah.
And then once a week, you have some amazing news. It's actually more often. Hopefully it's more often.
Yeah.
And so what I learned is to celebrate that.
Yeah.
because otherwise it would just kill you. Like all those bad news. Oh, this competition raised that much money, and they just got this customer, and they they released this feature you still don't have,
right.
And things like that. It's just always something. There's always someone better. There's always someone with more money who is more beautiful than you are. Like there's always something, someone.
Yeah.
And so you just can't do that to yourself. It's great to be aware. It's good to know, like, okay, they have this, they have that. So what? And then think about what can I do? Okay, I have less money, but I can be faster maybe in this or in that, or I will just tap this market. So I would say kind of mixture. Let's see. Let's see which part will win.
Yeah, makes sense. And maybe in last question, advice, the best advice you have for potential whoever is listening, what would you, if this was last message to humanity, what would you say?
Well, I guess if it would be last message, thank you very much. It was great.
Yeah. Knowing that with your knowledge and experience, you could influence the future in a whatever positive, negative way, what would be the final few words that you would share?
Okay, can I change the previous one?
Okay.
Thank you very much, but it's your fault. That would be my last words.
Yep.
Sorry. Now look, when it comes to message to humanity, I think what I would ask people to think about is to work more on their critical thinking, which is, I think, something we are missing more and more. Also because we are overwhelmed by all the data, all the information, all videos and opinions, and you can see people advising you on YouTube, how should you do your accounting, and then you have another channel which is making fun of those people and explaining different ways, and that they have it wrong, and it's so hard to actually kind of
navigate that.
So I think as a human race, we should start really kind of use that critical thinking. We shouldn't expect others do our thinking. We should think for ourselves, and whatever it is, like, if you like some like here in the US, if you like Biden, if you like Trump, if you like it doesn't matter, as long as you are thinking about it, you have kind of your real good reasons, then it's okay.
You're saying to try to outsource your decision making less, like make your own judgments.
I know it's hard because it means you need sometimes more data because you might not have it, and then your decision could be completely wrong.
Yeah.
But I think what would be great is also, just, I would avoid something which is called common sense, because it seems like every single person has different common sense.
Yeah.
It's not actually common anymore.
That's right, yeah.
It's like your and yours.
Yeah. And it's less common than ever. Probably, everyone has.
And so the critical thinking, if someone says something to you, you should really think like, okay, what is that person's motivation? What is their background? Like, can they benefit from lying to me?
Right.
Probably yes, probably no, and so on and so forth. So that thinking that's something people should be doing. And I know it's not easy, and it took me years to train that.
Yeah.
But I guess that would be my message, because everything else then is going to be way better.
For sure.
And also respect, respect to each other, because I see a lot of, especially here, I'm from Europe, from Czech Republic. I never seen what I have seen in past 3 years here in the US, like the way how people are angry at each other, like they don't talk politics because they just start shouting at each other, and it's like, okay, you have this opinion, they have this opinion, let's talk, right? I mean, why not? But they don't anymore because they're afraid. And so that's what I think is wrong. And I don't know why, but I would say respect and would be good start.
Any resources or point people to maybe latest projects you're working on? How can people find you? Anything like that?
Just LinkedIn. I'm very happy to talk to anyone. I'm always replying, except the spams. I don't reply to spams.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm always replying. I'm trying to help people as much as I can. I have a lot of people who are just coming like, oh, can you just jump on a call? I help them with their startups, for example. Like, half an hour, they just leave and have like next 6 months
Yeah.
solved. And so they can reach out. I'm very happy to talk about it. I'm very much involved in the free space still.
Yep.
Because most of startups I'm working with are from that space.
Makes sense. Cool. Awesome, man. All right. So that's wrapping up the conversation. Thank you again.